You've done this before. We've done midpoints given two coordinates. We can join it with a line and find the midpoint. We did a Maths Watch sheet which you all got completely correct. It's grade 4, they say. I'd say it's about the same, grade 4. Here's a revision of midpoints. Remember when I did this a few years back, I didn't use the Maths Watch. Only recently with your gear group I discovered that one sheet, which is brilliant. So just revise how to work out midpoints. I want to find the midpoint of 1, 4 and 2, 6. If I was to join it with a straight line, what's the point in the middle? Well, you may recall, you add up the two x's and halve it, add up the two y's and divide by 2, end up with 1.5, 5. If you were to plot it, 1, 4 would be around there, 2, 6 would be around there because it's further along and further up, and the point 1.5, 5 will be right in the middle there. So that's the midpoint, and that's grade 4 GCSE. Again, this is going somewhere quite big, and you may recall it if you did your revision from before. So this is me making up some questions before we did the Maths Watch. What is the midpoint of 4, 8 and 7, 12? Well, 4 and 7 is 11, halve it, 5.5. 8 and 12 is 20, halve it, 10. That's the midpoint. And the same with these. Minus 3 plus 4 is 1, half of 1 is 1/2. 7 plus minus 1 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so there's the midpoint. Minus 1 plus minus 4 is minus 5, divide by 2, minus 2.5. Minus 6 plus minus 10 is minus 16, divide by 2 is minus 8. Again, this is going on video, and I've uploaded these sheets to you anyway on today's lesson, so you can access that quite easily. So this is 4 little questions that lead on to the main question, which is that, but it's been broken down to you. In fact, part B is not essential to do, but you'll see why in a moment. So find, for the coordinates 3, 10 and 7, 12, the gradient of the line that joins them, the equation of the line that joins them, the midpoints of the coordinates, and the equation of the perpendicular line which passes through the midpoint. Right, so that's what we're going to do bit by bit by bit. So the gradient of points, first of all, well, it's the difference in y divided by the difference in x. So I've done it 2 different ways, both arriving at the same answer. I have got, that needs to go away so I can talk. I can say 12 take away 10 divided by 7 take away 3, which is what I've done here. Or I could say 10 take away 12 divided by 3 take away 7, which is what I've done here. Either way, you will end up with the gradient of a half. You can just see that there. You've got your sheets from yesterday, plus this is going on YouTube as soon as we're done from here. All right, so that's the gradient. The gradient of that line is 1/2. I don't really need the equation of that line, but I know from our whale book, or is it a dolphin? I can't remember. They all look the same to me. It's all like fish, isn't it? So, yeah, they broke it down for you bit by bit by bit. So I'm trying to do the same. So the gradient of the line that joins these 2 points is 1/2. Okay, and part B says, work out the equation of the line. Well, it's good practice to do it anyway, because they might ask you to take it that far and no further. So this is grade 6. We know that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus c. You know that. And y equals half an x plus c, because the gradient is a half that joins these 2 points. So I've got y equals half an x plus c. I now need to populate or substitute the x for a value and the y for a value. I can use 3 and 10, or I can use 7 and 12. I can't use 3 and 12, they're different points, and I can't use 7 and 10 because they're different points. But any one of these 2 points, because they sit on the line, as do billions of other points if you extend the line towards infinity in both directions, I can use any point that sits on the line. So I've chosen 3 and 7 because 3 and 10 because the numbers seem a little kinder. So I'm going to put in the 3 for the x and the 10 for the y. There it is. So I've got half of an x plus intercept equals 10. Half of 3 is 1.5. Take it over and subtract. The intercept is 0, 8.5. So what's the equation of my line joining these 2 points? The equation is, without even having to plot it, is this: y equals half of an x plus 8.5. Good. And C, I'm guessing, is work out the midpoint. Yeah, what's the midpoint of these 2 coordinates if you make a line and join them? Well, the usual thing, add the x's, divide by 2, 5. Add the y's, comes to 22, halve it, 11. So I now have an equation of the line that passes through these 2 points, and I have the midpoint of these 2 points. Now it's the big one. And the big one is this: find the equation of the perpendicular line which passes through the midpoint. In other words, the perpendicular bisector, which sounds exactly like a loci question, and it sort of is. But we're finding an equation. We're not doing it by drawing or using arcs to draw, bisecting a line using arcs and using a pair of compasses. We're not doing that. That's year 11 work. It's so hard. Anyway, you've done it all in year 9. So I'm now going to find the equation of the line that passes through that point, and it must be at right angles to that equation. So you may recall when we did this before that 2 gradients, when multiplied, will make -1 if the 2 lines are at right angles, if they're perpendicular. So here it is, y equals half an x plus 8.5 from the previous page. That's me dragging it over. And this is the midpoint we're going to use. So there's no choice in the matter now. We can't say I'm going to use this point only, or I'm going to use this point only. No, this graph, the equation of the graph has got to pass through that midpoint. So that's going to be my x, that's going to be my y. So just substitute in. 1/2 times something makes -1. So remember, like in class, you take your half, 1/2, and you flip it, becomes 2/1, but you put a minus in front of it, because 1/2 times -2 makes -1. 1/2 times 2, if you flip it without the sign, 1/2 times 2 doesn't make -1, it makes 1, so that would be wrong. So just a bit of revision. So if you flip 1/2 and multiply it with -1, you get with -2. And that's me working it out the long way. 1/2 times my mystery missing gradient equals -1. Take over the half and divide it. -1 divided by 1/2 is -2, because 1/2 goes into 1 twice. Yeah, 2 little halves make 1. So yeah, so I've got my basic framework for the perpendicular bisector. Y equals -2x plus c. Well, the y is 11. That's not negotiable because that's the midpoint. The y coordinate of the midpoint, and the x coordinate of the midpoint is the 5. So just substitute it in. So I've got -2 times 5 plus the dangly bit equals 11. There it is. Take the -10 and add. The intercept is 21. And so the equation of the perpendicular bisector of the points 310 and 712 is y equals -2x plus 21. And that's what grade 8-9 looks like in this topic. All right, that's all there is to it. And that looks a lot nicer than this ugly thing with fractions. But anyway, that's correct, and that's correct. And all that's left to do is these 2 cute little questions. I've called it grade 9. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of the line joining 220 and 518. And the next one, find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of the line joining -27 and 4 minus 10. So you go through this procedure here. First work out the gradients, then work out the equation if you want to. I didn't actually do that because all I really need is a gradient that I can then boing, flip. and use. So if you're desperate and you're pushed for time, you can avoid part B, because I did when I did this work myself, and just go from here straight onto here. Yeah, if you know that bit, don't need to know about that. You've got to know that though, and then just flip it. And what have I got here? That's the task. And that's me, I've done the homework. Look, there it is, it's on the screen, it's on YouTube. You can go and cheat now. Now don't do that, but you can of course self-check it, and there it is. I've done the 2 questions here, laid them side by side, took a screenshot, took a photo, and hacked it a little bit and shoved it on there. So it's that's that there. If you don't want to cheat, made a mistake, because I can't take away fractions. But anyway, that's where we are right now, and I need to stop the vid.